Hello again everybody. William Bombshell here again with another exclusive interview. It's all happening right now, on RedInterviews. Here today is another great YouTuber, ElectricDragon505, otherwise known as animat, the creator of the epic Mickey files and most notably, Animation Look Back. Here's my first question to you, good sir. I see you have reached 2,505 subscribers and over 1,400,000 video views as of May 17, 2012. Did you think you'd be as popular as you are?
You know, I would often daydream about being a part of something that I am really passionate about, like be a part of an animated film, or be a part of a Disney ride, or be a part of That Guy with the Glasses, you know, with Channel Awesome. Or just be popular in general. But the one thing that I never think of in my life is, how do I make the daydreams in my head become reality? And the fact that I got about 2,500 subscribers and almost 1.5 million views, like, to me, it's just astonishing. It may not seem like much for others, but to me, that's pretty big, actually. So, like, it's one thing to just daydream about having so much subscribers and tons of views, but it's another thing to think about it and it's actually real. Like, it's actually a fact. So the answer is no. I would never think that I would be as popular as I am right now.
Good to know. The last person I interviewed, Nightwing01, also didn't care about subs, they just wanted to make good videos. It's a good characteristic not many people have. My next question is, where did the idea of Animation Look Back come from, and did you think it would ever be as popular as it is now?
The idea pretty much started when I started watching web series with James Rolfe and the Angry Video Game Nerd and stuff like that. And at one point, I was watching Cinemassacre's Monster Madness. I think it was the Godzilla-thon. And I was really amazed with all the facts that I'm learning about Godzilla, you know, like that I learned about the movies and sometimes the behind-the-scenes stuff. And at one point, I thought to myself, like, wouldn't it be cool if there was a Cinemassacre's Monster Madness, but with Disney films? Because at the time, I wasn't really as much of an animation fan. I was more of a big Disney fan. So originally, I decided to put that as my side show. Like, because before I wanted to be like James Rolfe, like have something like a Disney Monster Madness as like a side thing to do, and my main show would be a video game show. And one summer, I decided to do one of my projects, like to actually work on one of my projects, and I decided not to do the video game show because it would be a little bit too difficult with all like setting up cameras and lighting and actually recording the video games onto the computer and all that stuff. So I decided to do something a little more simpler and to work on the Disney Monster Madness project that I wanted to do. And that's pretty much the origins of Animation Look Back. And as for its popularity, it goes with the first one. I would definitely say no. I would never even guess that the fame of Animation Look Back would be this much right now. So I'm just really surprised that it's really popular. Like, it's my magnum opus pretty much. So yeah, same thing as before. No, I would never guess it would be really popular.
Interesting. It seems that many people have took their own spin on something they've seen on the internet, but they managed to make it fresh in their own, which makes it creative. Now, who do you think does animated films the best? Disney, Pixar, or DreamWorks?
You know, the one who does the best animated films right now is without a doubt Pixar. Because the most important aspect of any movie has to be story. And there is no other animation studio that is focusing so much on story than Pixar. And and it just so happens that they could also make good animation as well, so that's like a bonus. But because that they focus on story, that is why they have such a good reputation, and that is why people always go see Pixar, because they know no matter what they release, well, except for Cars, it's going to be good. While on the other hand, the other two that you mentioned, like Disney, their main focus is to pretty much bring out that Disney magic. That sense of magic that you would get from watching the Disney classics like Snow White, Pinocchio, or Beauty and the Beast, or The Lion King. That's their main focus, and nowadays they sort of have it, but they're not really bringing in the people. Like the films like The Princess and the Frog and Winnie the Pooh and Tangled, they're good films. Some, I won't say they're great, but some of them are actually pretty. They're actually pretty good. Like Tangled is actually pretty amazing, to be honest. But they don't really bring out the audience, well, except for Tangled. And as for DreamWorks, they're the ones who hand out the most, like 2 to 3 films a year. It's a little bit ridiculous, I find, and you never know what you're gonna get. With DreamWorks, it's such a godforsaken surprise. You never know if they're gonna hand you something that's really good, like the Kung Fu Panda series or Shrek, or if they're gonna hand out to you absolute crap, like Shark Tale or Shrek Forever After, for example.
Agreed. I think DreamWorks has been relying too much on pop culture jokes in most of their films and forget that story is key. While Disney still maintains the magic, Pixar has found that balance that makes a remarkable film like Toy Story 3. Do you have any fond memories of animated films, Disney and none, when you were growing up?
Well, when I was a kid, there are some animated films that I would watch just over and over and over again. Like, there was The Three Caballeros, because when I was a kid, I loved both Donald Duck and the Eric Bird's crazy antics. It was just silly, and all the nice animation going on. It was really nice. And another one that I used to see all the time, it was the Bugs Bunny and Roadrunner movie, because during my childhood, I used to watch a lot of cartoons, like animated series on TV, like even more than animated films actually. And the Bugs Bunny and Roadrunner movie is pretty much like the best of the Looney Tunes. And as a kid, I love watching Looney Tunes, so that was pretty much it. To me, it was just a compilation of Looney Tunes cartoons, and I just love it. And another one as a kid, I remember I used to watch all the time this Peter Pan animated film. It's not the 1953 Walt Disney classic, but it was this. It was another one. It had this a little bit of an anime style to it, and it was pretty short. It was about an hour long, and I don't remember. I don't specifically remember what it is really, but all I remember, it was Peter Pan, pretty much. It was a cheap animated Peter Pan. And there is also another one that I always watched, and it's a little embarrassing to say, but I used to all love the Don Bluth Thumbelina. I remember I used to always watch that as a kid, and I loved it. And interesting story, when I was editing the animation look back of Don Bluth, I remember going through the clips of Thumbelina, and I know that it's a pretty bad animated film. I know that it's such a huge ripoff of Disney, but there's something in me that I just cannot hate it. Like, just I was looking at the stuff, I was looking at some of the dance numbers, going, "Oh my God, I remember this. I remember this. It's just crazy." And another one, I guess, would be the Pokemon films, and mostly that's what I was interested in more. Like, since I'm more interested in cartoons than actual animated films, so I would watch more films like based on cartoons, like the Pokemon animated films, Yu-Gi-Oh the movies, the SpongeBob SquarePants movie, and yeah, that would be.
Cool. Though I haven't seen most of the Disney package films, I really want to. With all the animated films you have fond memories of, when you were younger, what was your favorite, and what is it now? Why do you think it may have changed?
Thinking about it, I think as a kid, my favorite film of all times would be Walt Disney's Alice in Wonderland. I remember watching it all the time because I loved seeing all the different characters because they are so lovable, so kooky, so memorable. It's just that's the big appeal of it, and even colorful even. There was Tweedledee and Tweedledum, the White Rabbit, the Cheshire Cat, the Queen of Hearts, and my personal favorites, the Mad Hatter and March Hare. And also, I remember as a kid, one of my favorite rides at Walt Disney World was the Mad Tea Party. And we always see the mouse coming out of the giant teapot and stuff like that. It's always fun. It was really fun. But nowadays, my favorite animated film, and even my favorite like film in general of all times, would be Walt Disney's Fantasia, because this is a film like none other. It should be categorized in its own genre even, and mainly because the animation is just so beautiful, and to me, it's trying to prove a point that animation mixed with classical music can be a whole new form of art. And also the fact that story doesn't only need to be driven by dialogue and what's written on paper and all that stuff, but it can also be driven by music. The music offers is what's going on in the movie. And like another thing that I really love about it is that I know for a fact that I don't think that there is no other animated film or ever will be that'll offer me something like Fantasia. And what made me change is mainly because it was when I started making these videos. Like when I started to gain more interest into animation. And because like I feel like ever since I started making these videos, like I kind of changed. There's like a whole new me.
Interesting. This next one I like to ask all Disney animation fans, because they all have different answers. If Walt Disney were alive today, do you think he'd be happy with the animated films of today?
That's a really tough question because it's really hard to know what would be the opinion of someone else. But if I would guess, I think he would probably be more than happy with what Disney and what Pixar did with their animated films. Like, Pixar is for sure, like, he would be very satisfied. With Disney, you never know because Disney went through a lot after Walt's death. But I'm sure with the Disney Renaissance and, like, today's animated films that Disney's doing, like The Princess and the Frog and Tangled, I think he'd be satisfied with that. As for the other films by DreamWorks and Blue Sky and stuff like that, I really don't know. Mainly because during the time Walt Disney was alive, that I know of, is that he never showed a lot of his opinions when it comes to other people's animated works. I never heard Walt Disney express his opinion on the Looney Tunes or on Tom and Jerry or Woody Woodpecker or stuff like that. So it's really hard to tell about the others. But with what Disney and Pixar are doing, I think he'd be happy.
I think so too. Walt was always an innovator, always looking for the next thing. 3D animation would be something I think Walt would be interested in using. One final question, since I personally love Shrek the Musical, I was wondering what your thoughts were on it, and do you think it did the movie justice?
To be honest, I haven't seen Shrek the Musical, and I think I should because sometimes I would go to New York City and I've seen a few Broadway shows, and one of them was The Lion King, and that one was really good. But some of my friends actually went to see Shrek the Musical, and they say that it was good. And not only that, I keep hearing that Shrek the Musical is actually a good Broadway show in itself. So from I'm gonna take a wild guess, but from all the critics and from my friends' opinions, I'm gonna say I think it did the movie justice. I think so.
I think so too. Well, that wraps up another awesome episode of Red Interviews. I would once again like to thank our special guest, ElectricDragon505, for being here today. If you haven't already, go subscribe to him to support classic animation. Well, we'll see ya real soon.